Kentucky Derby.
Around the turn, the leader, War Admiral, 2.5 for free.
Next brigade is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear.
Down the stretch they come in the Derby. Wheel away takes command.
Lion Hunt is all Hunt. Smarty Jones is all out. And here's the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle's low of 1976.
The anticipation is over. The fields have been drawn. The morning line has been set. Past performances for the Oaks and Derby Day are now available. Maintenance and time are all that remain. Welcome to the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show presented by TwinSpires. It's Champions Day at Churchill Downs. Yesterday, we had the draw for both the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks to a packed room in the Aristides Lounge. 14 for the Oaks, 20 for the Kentucky Derby. Let's take a look at the headlines in a full field of 20. The Chad Brown trained Bluegrass Stakes winner Zandon has been installed as the 3-1 morning line favorite for Kentucky Derby 148. Son of Upstart drew post 10 and is followed in the pecking order by Epicenter at 7-2 and Messier at 8-1. Un Ojo, the Rebel upsetter, was taken out of Kentucky Derby consideration on Monday morning, allowing Ethereal Road to draw in. The New York-bred gelding suffered a foot bruise following his most recent work. In a full field of 14, the top Fletcher-trained Ashland winner Nest has been installed as the 5-2 morning line favorite for Friday's Kentucky Oaks. The daughter of Curlin drew post position number 4 and is followed in the pecking order by a pair of undefeated fillies and Kathleen O at 7-2 and Echo Zulu at 4-1. Joe Christopher, Scott Shapiro, a wet and wild morning here at Churchill Downs. Scott might make training a little bit tricky here this morning for the Oaks and Derby contenders, but the heavy lifting is done.
Yep, the draw yesterday, good times. We've got the past performances, 2 amazing cards. Great cards all week, but Friday and Saturday, hats off to Ben Huffman, Dan Bork, and the rest of the racing office. Tremendous job, and obviously the Oaks and the Derby, the headliners.
Let's send it to the third member of our team, James Scully, and James, post positions, final handicapping, finishing touches. I know you're going to give us your Kentucky Derby and Oaks picks later on in the show.
Yes, I'll do that last. I'm up here on the 4th floor. Joe, it's Scott. Great to be back with you guys. It's wet up here, but it's not dampened my enthusiasm about the Derby and Oaks. Look forward to a great show with you guys.
All right, it's also not dampening the enthusiasm of trainer Chad Brown, who stands by. Before we get to Chad, let's take a look at the Kentucky Derby field, though. Scott and Zandon, 3-1 morning line favorite. Good draw from him. Post position number 10. Epicenter, maybe a little bit of a tricky draw, 7-2. Third choice in the morning line, Messier, the speed at 8-1.
Yeah, Messier should get a great trip there, drawing outside Summers tomorrow. And Epicenter, I think we'll agree that Zandon drew very well for trainer Chad Brown. Nobody less than 10-1 on that second page with White Abario and Taba leading the way.
Yeah, White Abario, the fourth choice at 10-1, Taba at 12-1. As we take a look at the 2 also eligibles, Rich Strike and Rattle and Roll. All right, we are standing by here at the set on the Gold Room balcony, and Chad Brown joining us from the Lucas Gap. I'd like to thank Chad for being a trooper, joining us this morning on this wet and wild Tuesday. Chad, thanks for joining us. I want to quickly get to a couple questions for you here. Obviously, Zandon, you get this horse in your barn as a 2-year-old, $170,000 yearling by Upstart, also the sire of Kathleen O. Get a lot of 2-year-olds in your barn trickling in this time of year. What were your first impressions of him? And let's talk about his road to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. He came in the middle of the summer, and he was just kind of a gangly, handsome, good-moving horse. But you could tell he's going to be a fall type of horse. So the owner, Jeff Drown's a real patient guy, and, I told him what I wanted to do with him, and he said that's fine. And sure enough, we got him to the races in the fall, and he showed his talent right away in his debut.
Chad, you have Flavien Prat aboard Zandon, and I was fortunate enough to see his ascension in Southern California. You've been riding him when you've had the chance, and now you'll have a lot more of a chance as he's moved east. Talk about what Flavien's strengths are and the confidence he gives you on a horse like Zandon that's going to be coming from off the pace.
Yeah, he tends to give your horses a great chance and gets position, early in his races. I find on turf or dirt, and generally gets the horse out of the gate well, and he's looking for a good spot early, and I like that. He's not afraid to use the horse a little bit to secure that position, and he generally makes good decisions throughout the race. He has a lot of confidence. He does his homework before and after the race. He gives you good feedback after, and I'm looking forward to working with him more on the East Coast.
Chad, James Scully, Zandon's raced 4 times, and in his first 3 starts, he faced adversity in each of them, either slow starts, getting roughed up in the stretch, or wide trips. In the Bluegrass, he got shuffled back to last on the far turn, had to slice and dice his way through traffic before exploding to win going away. Is his ability to overcome adversity in his 4 starts so far give you extra confidence going into the Kentucky Derby?
It makes me feel a lot better. Particularly his last 2 starts, he's had challenging trips, and he was able to run well with them. And, sometimes you lose like we did at the fairgrounds, and, you're disappointed in the result. But when you really look at it for the long run, it might be the best thing for him and serve him well in the Derby, I hope.
All right, Chad, one more question before we let you go. This time of year, you guys get asked the same questions over and over and over again. After the draw yesterday, Steve Asmussen was asked a couple of different times about not being the morning line favorite. Finally just got a little bit frustrated and said, you know what, I'd be surprised if Epicenter got beat. How do you respond to that? Steve's a great trainer, and he's one of the top contenders, the horse. And I think anytime a trainer's really confident in their horse, I don't take any offense to that. I'm confident in my horse. As far as the morning line favorite goes, I feel it's close between the 2 horses. I think it's human nature to feel the last thing you saw is the best thing you saw. So it might have hurt Epicenter a little bit with the morning line that he ran, a couple weeks before we did. I think if he ran more recent, they probably make him the morning line favorite. So at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters. All that really matters is the result. And he's definitely one of the horses to beat. No one would dispute that. All right, Chad, we very much appreciate you joining us here this morning. Enjoy it as much as you can. Looking forward to Zandon's training and post position number 10. Best of luck in the Kentucky Derby on Saturday.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck, Chad.
Thank you.
All right. Chad Brown there, Scott, and answer that question in a very political way as we take a look at Chad by the numbers. I was trying to get him to talk a little trash, but it didn't quite work out. He's confident in his horse. Everybody knows that. We take a look at his previous Kentucky Derby starter.
Like Steve Asmussen, who you referenced there, has yet to win a Kentucky Derby. Less starters, 6 as you see in totality. Normandy Invasion, his first starter, gave him a big run. He took the lead when they turned for home, ended up tiring to finish 4th. And then his best finish, of course, 2018 with Good Magic, who finished 2nd to justify a very high, a very strong horse there. Practical Joke was a horse that got a little better as he cut back in distance, but I would argue this is his best chance, even with Good Magic, who was a serious contender.
All right, let's revisit the Kentucky Derby draw. We had Chad standing by, wanted to get to him. Need to spend a little bit more time on the winners and losers in this draw. We'll bring James Scully in as well. And James mentioned Epicenter from post position number 3. Summer is tomorrow. Has got an inside post. Messier drawn outside of him. Zozo's drawn outside of him, along with Classic Causeway. Winners and losers for you?
Well, I thought the loser was Epicenter drawing post 3. All things being equal in the Kentucky Derby, I don't think it's a fluke that the rail hasn't won since 1980 with Ferdinand. Post 2 hasn't won since 1978 with Affirmed. And post 3 is 593, no wins since 24 years ago with Real Quiet. So I think that those posts, not necessarily just coming out of the gate, but the field has to take a left-hand turn. The opposite of that, Joe, is the outside posts. Posts 15, 16, 18, 19, and 20 have all produced wins in the last 15 years, a couple of them multiple wins. So I think if you liked Wadabario, Cyberknife, or Zozos going into the post position draw, you should be happy where they are on the outside of the field.
And Mo Donegal drawing post position number 1, Scott. I've kind of thought as I woke up this morning and had my cup of coffee that I might lean towards him, because I think with the rail draw now, people are even going to get off of him even more. I already thought he was going to be an 8 or 10 to 1 shot, maybe even 12 at this point. He had no business winning the Wood Memorial. I don't think he's that compromised by the draw, unlike how much some others would have been.
I agree, especially in terms of the win end. I think if you're looking for him to hit the board, having a further post off the rail would be advantageous to guarantee or trot as much as you can guarantee that he's not going to have traffic issues on the rail. It's a little more up risk reward type situation. If things go perfectly for him, it could be the perfect trip. We've seen horses before come up the rail in the Derby. Mind That Bird, of course, comes to mind. And he could get that kind of trip like he did in the Wood Memorial. I think he's going to need a pretty perfect trip to beat this field. I don't think he needs a perfect trip to hit the board. So if you like him on top, Irad Ortiz Jr., I think the one hole not so bad.
Lots of anticipation at the draw yesterday in the Aristides Lounge, which was absolutely packed. We caught up with some of the Kentucky Derby trainers to find out what they thought about their post positions.
I'm very happy with the post. Obviously, leading up to it was getting a little edgy because there were some inside posts there that you didn't want. But once the 15 came out, we were very happy with the post. And then Tyler Gaffley on our writer, he texted me soon after and said, love it. So made me even feel better. If he takes another jump forward, which we expect him to, 2 to 3 lengths, that's all you're looking for to win the Derby. And he's right there as far as numbers go. So we're just thankful for how we got here so far. And we like our post, and we need another good 5 days. And hopefully he runs his race of his life on the most important day of his life.
You know, Epicenter's got plenty of race, and he's got a lot of seasoning in him. Just how long it takes him to load. You want to get away from there. There'll be some anxious moments in that. Just want him to stand up good in the gates, get away from there cleanly, and expect him to run his race. A lot of confidence. I think that he's, since with victories and with success, he's been very proud of himself and goes about like he can handle what he's doing.
Well, in all honesty, we were hoping to be a little bit more on the outside, but as soon as we got number 2, we were like, hey, we like number 2. So, but this is the first year of a new gate, and there's more room now from the inner horses to the rails. So I think that's a little advantage. And we got Epicenter is right outside of us, who's a big-time speed horse and talented horse. So, but I think having Rafael Bejarano in a saddle is huge. He's so experienced. He knows his track better than anybody. We're just hoping we're bringing in a fit horse who's hopefully his numbers are on the rise and will shock the world.
Designated training period for the Oaks and Derby horses. Once again, 7:30 this morning. Heavy lifting is done. We'll see a lot of gallops here this morning from the participants of this weekend's big races. But earlier this morning, Epicenter was out on the racetrack and again has the resume. Drew post position number 3. It'll be interesting to see going into that first turn with all the speed drawn outside of him. If Joel Rosario can secure a forward position, I'm thinking he's going to be 4th or 5th on the backstretch.
I'm not so bothered by the post position again. Like I mentioned with Mo Donegal, it gives you a better chance of having a bad trip per se with the inside, but he breaks so well. He showed the ability to relax along the inside in the Louisiana Derby just off the early pace. I expect that kind of trip here. We saw him in the mornings or a couple days ago where he was relaxing on the inside quite kindly. So sure, more could go wrong with the inside post, but also I think an ideal trip is very, very possible.
No, and James, it looks like he's bounced out of his work really, really well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's really just so smooth right there getting over the track. A lot of these tracks appear to love the wet going earlier this morning. And for me, it's really key with Summers tomorrow with Epicenter. If Rosario could get that horse to flash out and show high speed, then he could drop right behind him, perhaps get a good trip. Otherwise, I just expect him to be hustling from the start. It'll be interesting to see, Joe.
Speaking of Summer is tomorrow. He had to work yesterday as we take a look at his credentials going into Kentucky Derby at 148. Just the 2 lifetime wins, but the big second in UAE Derby, Scott, is why he's here.
He's here because of that second, and he's here because of his early speed, sprinter-type speed, and he showed that in the UAE Derby. His first try around 2 turns, drawing right outside Epicenter, inside Messier. You'd think, assuming a good break, he absolutely has to go, and there you see him right there.
From a handicapping perspective, James, I was almost hoping that he would be a little bit headstrong and fighting the rider and wanting to go. But this was a very relaxed work. We know he has speed. He was a sprinter prior to the UAE Derby try. He did go fast in the UAE Derby. He was caught late that particular day by Crown Pride. Still expecting him to show speed, but very relaxed in this work yesterday.
Yeah, and I think he's an atypical speed horse from overseas. Typically, these horses can show speed in Dubai and come here, and they're just outpace against American horses. Summers tomorrow was a 6 furlong, 7 furlong, get after it from the gate type. And there was some real speed in that UA Derby. Pinehurst from America is ultra quick. So he impressed me that day. I think not being headstrong is good, though, Joe, for the paddock and the post parade. That's something he's going to have to deal with for certain.
I think you see that kind of high knee action. The pedigree suggests on both sides that this horse is a turf horse, so he may run well in the Derby. Don't be surprised if he sticks around for maybe the Belmont Derby as well.
That would make a lot of sense for sure. Summer is tomorrow, as you see him in the gallop out there, 49-1 in his breeze yesterday. We've got fans watching from all over the country, all over the world. Use that hashtag KY Derby if you'd like to ask us a question from any of our social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Again, James Scully is going to reveal his selections for the Oaks and Derby a little bit later on the card. Brandon Staubel, Rosie Napravnik, Scott Shapiro, and myself will do the same here in the coming days. But if you've got a question about the post positions, a question about any of the competitors in the Oaks and Derby, please feel free to ask. You see the track maintenance going on in advance of the 7:30 designated training time for the Oaks and Derby competitors. Kentucky Oaks was drawn yesterday as well. Nest the morning line favorite. More on that when we return here on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show.
For the fastest 2 minutes in sports, speed might be the only thing that matters. And when you hear the call to post for Saturday's Kentucky Derby, one of the fastest ways to bet is right from your phone. Race to the TwinSpires app, where you can earn your money back if your horse finishes second or third. All week long, on every eligible race at Churchill Downs, including the Kentucky Derby. TwinSpires. Download the app now.
Kentucky Derby. Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show presented by TwinSpires. And again, lots of rain earlier this morning. Within the last couple of hours, it subsided quite a bit here recently. Comfortable temperatures in the low 60s. And again, today is Champions Day at Churchill Downs. We will be racing live with the first post of 12:45 for our 9-race program. Joe Krzyzewski and Scott Shapiro. And again, Scott, yesterday we drew the Oaks and the Derby. Different from past years where we drew the Oaks card on Monday, the Derby card on Tuesday. We got all the past performances, not only for the Oaks and Derby, but also for the other races on two tremendous cards. Looking very forward to it.
Yeah, it was a fun event, drawing them both within an hour. Lots going on there, lots of people, lots of buzz, and lots of handicapping to be done over the next couple of days for us and for a lot of other people. Two awesome cards on Oaks and Derby Day.
We're going to take a look at the Oaks field right now. Then we'll bring in James Scully for some reactions to this draw. Nest, the morning line favorite. I think Mike Battaglia with a little bit of favoritism towards the Keeneland horses. He made Zandon the favorite in the Derby. He makes Nest the 5-2 favorite in the Oaks against undefeated fillies and Echo Zulu. And we'll see on the outside Kathleen O, but Secret Oath drawing the rail.
It was an unenviable position. I thought it was very tough to separate the top four in here, but I was a little bit surprised that there was such a significant move to make a favorite in the 5-2. I thought it would be more like 3-1, 7-2, 4-1, 9-2. The separation between Nest and Secret Oath surprised me quite a bit.
Caught up with some of the trainers yesterday in regards to their reactions to the draw. We'll get to that in just a minute. Let's bring James Scully in first to talk about that draw. And James, Shahama 15-1 on the morning line. I like the big four in the Oaks, but that's the one that I'm interested in a little bit at a price. I know you're going to give us your picks a little bit later on, but what did you think of the draw?
Yeah, well, I'm intrigued by Shahama too. She has trained so well here at Churchill Downs, Joe, but I did not like that outside draw. I think it makes her task a little bit more difficult. My main takeaway was Echo Zulu. If she had drawn inside of Yaguri and perhaps Hidden Connection. She would have 100% been shown away. She has all this speed. Drawing outside Yagiri. I mean, Yagiri just has to go. She can't rate and win. And I just think Joel Rosario, he doesn't want to be doing head-in-head. I wouldn't be surprised to see him sit. Echo Zulu sat second when she broke her maiden, and I expect her to be sitting second or third, up close from the start, but I don't think she'll be doing.
That's interesting, James, because when you listen to Steve Asmussen, it leads me to believe that Echo Zulu's going to the lead.
I think I heard him quoted as saying yesterday, she'll be easy to find early on, meaning, she's going to be out there. I think, we looked at it on paper, and it didn't look like the pace was going to be contentious. I still don't think it's going to be very hot or anything, but the way it shook out with the draw with Hidden Connection and Yugiri both drawing inside of Echo Zulu, it does create a little bit of a possibility of them going at it early on.
Breck Hawks has won the Kentucky Oaks twice already. We caught up with him. He's got Turner Luce and some of the other trainers to discuss their post-position draw for the Oaks.
Probably break running. Monomoy girl broke from out there, so I'm okay with it. But, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully she can break, say, a little bit of ground going into the first turn. Much better this week as opposed to the week before. Way too keyed up and aggressive going to the pole. Didn't finish up the way we were looking. What we were looking for, and much better this week. So she's definitely coming into the race a little bit better.
Yeah, very pleased with the draw for her and Goddess of Fire, 4 and 5. Very good. She's a filly that watching her videos of her races in Dubai, she doesn't jump real well. She's not real quick away from the gate. I actually think she might be better off out there. We'll give Flavian some options in terms of being able to drop in. I think if she was stuck inside and didn't get away well, it could compromise her a little more.
Hopefully she's away from there sharply, drawn 7 of 14. I think it's a very good draw for her, going a mile and an eighth. She's been training really well. Expect her to be easy to find in the race. To this point, she's broke very cleanly and been very comfortable on the front end.
The fans on the backstretch, as you see Kevin Kirstein holding court. Yeah, there. As we anticipate the horses coming out on the racetrack, the Derby and Oaks horses, about 9 minutes from now. Again, we had a lot of rain. You can see that the main track is sloppy. Kathleen O, one of the major players for the Kentucky Oaks, trained by Shug McGahee, and got my past performances today, Scott. I've got a lot of notes within those past performances, and looking back at her last couple of Gulfstream races, and she has looked visually impressive. I think she might be a little bit dressed up, though, circumstantially. I'm not going to take a big stand against her, but she's not going to be overly prominent on my tickets either.
Yeah, understandable. That Gulfstream Park Oaks was a nice setup for her in a 6-horse field. Goddess of Fire, the other horse that finished second, also got a good setup. I'm dubious of her chances to get the mile and an eighth, and she's trained okay here. I don't think she's a great workhorse in general, and the pace is a little bit murky, so she won't be my top pick, but it's hard to knock her form.
Yeah, I haven't seen him myself on the backstretch, James, but a lot of people reporting that Chuck McGahee has been doing the moonwalk back there. Very, very pleased with the way Kathleen O is doing, and guys trained a good horse or two.
He really has, Kentucky Derby winning trainer. He won the Oaks back in 1993 with Dispute. And he's been bullish, like you said, basically asking the media questions. She might like, do you think she'll like this long stretch? I think he has a subtle confidence. And the thing with Kathleen O, she broke her maiden first time out on a muddy track. Not a lot of these fillies have experience on a muddy or sloppy track. Looks like Friday's our best chance of rain this weekend.
Very light exercise this morning, as you can see from one of the major players in the Kentucky Oaks on Friday, Kathleen O. Possible pace factor in the Oaks is Ugiri. Now, she won at Oaklawn last out, didn't beat the strongest of fields. She's going to face some very stiff competition in this race, Scott, drawn inside of Echo Zulu, and she's a major player in this race because of her speed.
She sure is, and Florent Giroux took her to the lead in his first try aboard her last time out in the Grade 3 Fantasy, and she was gutsy to beat a field much lesser than the one she beats in here, but she's run well over this racetrack with a win in 2 seconds. That 6-furlong affair on debut was eye-popping. Hasn't gotten back to that in terms of Brisnet speed ratings, but I think she's a little dangerous to hit the board in here, and if Echo Zulu doesn't run a race, maybe she'll inherit the lead when they turn for home.
Well beaten in the Rags to Riches, second in the Goldenrod here behind Dream Lith. Well beaten by Secret Oath and the Honeybee, and then the winner of the Fantasy over Beguine last out. And this is Ugiri from yesterday. James, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, she just, she had been training at Keeneland, so they just brought her in here recently to Churchill Downs. And, yeah, I mean, she likes the track. Like Scott said, she ran well here last year at age 2 and made a good appearance out there. I'm concerned, though, in the Honeybee 2 back, they tried to sit second with Ugiri, and she faded and finished up the track. I think she's a little bit one-dimensional. She might not be quick enough to beat Echo Zulu, but I think with Ferrand Giroux, who's an aggressive rider, that's the game plan. Her sire, Shackelford, was the actual pace setter in the 2011 Kentucky Derby.
Nostalgic defeated just 5 rivals, but did so authoritatively 2 races ago at Gulfstream, serving notice. And then she won the Gazelle last out, Scott, with a favorable pocket trip over a racetrack that favored inside and speed. But she has the ability maybe for Bill Mott to take another step forward.
I think she's sitting on a career best effort here. She's definitely taken steps forward in terms of getting into the race earlier over her last couple of starts, which I think will be key here. We've got the 3 horses that we expect to be on or right near the lead, but sitting in that second tier, I expect to be Nest, and I'm hopeful Nostalgic is, because I may or may not be very high on this horse's chances to win the race.
She got beat by Nest and Venti Valentine in the Demoiselle last December. Then they tried Turf with her, which I found to be a little bit strange, but again, coming into the race the right way and going to be the right price.
Yeah, that looked like it was a clear prep to me, just looking back at her first 2 races and then the 2 races after. I think Mott just used her as a tightener, but it was a little bit mysterious. But I've been impressed with the last 2, and then that big step forward in terms of a Brisnet speed rating, running the 98 last time, which really puts her right in the mix.
Got an opportunity to go to the backstretch yesterday. One of the stops that James Scully and I made was to Coach Dwayne Lucas's barn, and he's the one that broke the news to us that Un Ojo was out and that his Ethereal Road was going to draw in, and he was giddy about it. He's very happy with the way Secret Oath is doing, and James, there's Ethereal Road, who's going to be a big price in the Derby.
Yes, he is. And Ethereal Road's a horse who just broke his maiden 2 starts back. Took him a little bit of time to come to hand, but he ran a big race in that Rebel. Didn't have the best of trips or best result in the Bluegrass, but if he could run back to that Rebel, he's got a little bit of a chance to make an impact because he'll be rolling late. Joe.
Horse is approaching the track for the designated training period, 3 minutes away. Before we go to a break and get set up for that training period, Oaks Derby wagering. Oh, the wagering menu. Okay, so tell us about it, Scott. Lots of good stuff on here. Some new wagers, some old favorites.
Yeah, I mean, just a plethora of wagering options, a word you've used a couple of times, and it fits perfectly here. Get those opinions figured out, and then go to these options. You got the Oaks Derby double, the Oaks Derby pick 6, a $2 minimum wager, minimal takeout. Then you got other wagers of note we see here, an all stakes, all dirt pick 3. Of course, the dollar superfectas, all the pick 5 pools, some of my favorite wagers in the game, the low 15% takeout. And then let's turn the page here to some more options, and one that I'm really excited for, Joe, other than, of course, the 20-cent Derby City 6, is the all 3-year-old pick 3. That'll be the American Derby, of course, the Pat Day Mile, one of my favorite races of the year. And then, of course, my favorite race of the year, the Run for the Roses.
Derby City 6 carryover going into today, but a mandatory payoff coming up on Derby Day Saturday. And another pick 6, Scott. 2 races on Oaks Day, La Troya and the Kentucky Oaks. 4 on Kentucky Derby Day, including the Kentucky Derby. So if you're 2 for 2 on Oaks Day, you're alive with 4 legs to go on Derby Day.
Yeah, and if you could beat any of those 4 favorites in the Kentucky Oaks, you'll be alive with not as many friends left in the pool. So something to consider there. But I assume a lot of people will be kind of looking into the logicals: Nest, Kathleen O, Secret Oath, and of course Echo Zulu.
All right, we are rapidly approaching the designated training time for the Oaks and Derby contenders. As you see, one of the potential speed threats, a late re-addition into the Kentucky Derby fray, that is Classic Causeway. Derby and Oaks horses live here on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show right after this.
Race to the TwinSpires app, where you can earn your money back if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd all week long on every eligible race at Churchill Downs, including the Kentucky Derby. TwinSpires. Download the app now.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show. You see the photographers and the fans lining up to get a glimpse of the combatants for Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks 148. Derby on Saturday, Oaks on Friday. The heavy lifting is done for the most part. Now it's just about maintenance and keeping the horses, as the trainers would say, happy and healthy. Designated training time. Again, the Kentucky Derby horses in the yellow saddle towels. That is Happy Jack. The Kentucky Oaks horses in the pink. And a couple quick social media questions before we go live to these horses. Joe on Facebook wants to know why Unoho isn't running as we take a look at Whiteabaro, easy to spot. Unoho suffered a hoof bruise. Joe, it was an unfortunate. Ricky Corville, his son Clay Corville, they've been on the grounds for the better part of a week and a half now. Just unfortunate timing after that recent workout. They tried to get it to settle down, but doing right by the horse, Unoho will live to fight another day. Some 3-year-old battles down the road, but unfortunately unable to run in the Kentucky Derby, doing right by the horse, and Ethereal Road drew in. Lewis Clark on Facebook wants to know, Scott, which horses can perform well on an off track in the Kentucky Oaks. The forecast does call for rain on Friday, although looking at it this morning, it is a much improved forecast than maybe we saw the last couple of days, particularly for Kentucky Derby Day Saturday. Again, still a few days before we get to Friday and Saturday for the forecast to change again, but anybody in the Oaks that you think moves up on an off track?
Well, I think two of the favorites certainly have proven form over. Whether there's others that move up as well is a question mark still, but Kathleen O, as James referenced earlier, the maiden breaking performance, gone 7 furlongs at Aqueduct over the muddy going. It was her slowest race in terms of Brisnet speed ratings, but still showed the affinity. And first and foremost is Nest, who took a massive step forward in the Ashland. Part of that might have been just maturity, but that was a wet, fast surface and earned her a much the best career effort.
Again, we saw this the other day when we had a little bit of rain. Maintenance on the track continuing, so just a slight delay for the Derby and Oaks horses going on. We want the racetrack to be in as best shape as possible. It took quite a bit of rain, and we know here at Churchill Downs, James Scully, no racetrack drains as well as the track here at Churchill, but a lot of rain early. It's going to take some time for that track surface to drain and go from sloppy to muddy to good to eventually fast, but just a little bit of a delay, but looking very forward to these horses coming out as we take a look at Charge It, James, who has really made a nice impression the last week or so here at Churchill.
Really made a nice impression. You know, it's going to have to keep moving forward from a mental standpoint, but Charge It has talent in spades, and you know, he appears to love the going, and he's bred for a wet track, so we might not get that in the Derby, but it's always something to consider given the weather, and he's a beautiful-looking horse, Joe.
These horses get out in the morning, James, and they can't wait to get on the track and stretch their legs, and, you know, a little bit of a delay before the horses go on to the track, and you see Barbara Road there with the blinkers, very relaxed, and that is extremely important that you see a horse that can relax under adverse conditions. A long gate load with 20 horses, a huge crowd in the paddock. How they handled it from a mental perspective, not quite as important as how they handle it from a physical and talent perspective, but it certainly is a major cog in the equation.
Absolutely, and a horse like Barber Road, I think it was an advantage for him drawing outside. Raylu Gutierrez, his jockey, is an aggressive type. John Ortiz has talked about wanting to be in mid-pack. He won in a front-running fashion early in his career. His recent races, though, he's been more of a closer, so he doesn't have the speed to be anywhere close to the lead. But I think his trip is going to be essential because everybody knows he can hit the board running second or third in his last 5 starts.
James, how did you not jump in at Keeneland back in October to claim this one for $30,000? You didn't foresee this run to the Derby?
Well, you know, we decided not to go to $15,000 when he sold his Wheeland, Scott, so we missed out twice on him. Yeah, he's sold for the lowest auction price in the field, Barber Road, $15,000. And like Scott said, he was available for a $30,000 maiden claiming tag, so he's come a long way for his connections. John
Ortiz there on the pony, looking at Barber Road, saying, "This is my first Kentucky Derby starter." Lots of pride involved there, as you see D. Wayne Lucas. James, we had a chance to stop by the barn yesterday. We just love spending time with Wayne, going up to the barn and saying, "Hey, for once we don't need something from you. We just want to chat." Was very confident, obviously, in Secret Oath, and we can understand why, and was happy to get Ethereal Road into the field.
He certainly was. Ethereal Road will be Dwayne Lucas's 50th Kentucky Derby starter, second only to Todd Pletcher. He really went on and on, I thought, about Secret Oak, talked about how she's just doing great and totally relaxed and everything. And he was a little bit of surprise, I think, with Ethereal Road getting in. He had said that they didn't think they were going to get it. So he's definitely happy to be part of the festivities this year again, Joe.
And Scott, you've got a little bit of a history with Ethereal Road.
Yeah, it was disappointing, the Rebel Stakes. I know I wasn't the only horse player that needed this one at almost 16-1, and thought we were home. Wide Voyage Unoho snuck up the rail and got the best at 75-1 or so. But third race since April 9th, tried the Bluegrass, didn't go as planned, ran fourth in the Lexington. Big test for Ethereal Road, who drew to the far outside.
We're going to see the Todd Pletcher Brigade coming out, 3 for the Derby, 3 for the Oaks. And I did not know this, James, going in to the Derby, but Pioneer of the Nile, Pioneer Medina taking blinkers off. We're going to switch gears. We'll go back to the Todd Pletcher horses in a minute. But Messier, this is the first chance I've had to see him on the track, Scott. And obviously, a horse that's going to be a pace factor as we get our first look on the work show at Messier.
Yeah, of the Southern California imports, the one I'm most interested in. Lowest on the morning line, a little bit surprising. I thought Taba might be a little bit lower after that Santa Anita Derby win. If I had to make a bet on who was going to have the lead on the far turn, it would be between Epicenter and Messier. I think one of them will take control then, and Messier would likely be a better price. So hard to leave a horse off your ticket with the credentials of Messier that is going to be, in my opinion, potentially on the lead when they turn for home.
And James, we had a chance to go back up to Tim Yachteen's barn as you see White Barrio there, and Messier, a much bigger, stouter colt than Taba, who we got to see in the shed row yesterday.
Yeah, Taba's a more athletic looking, small, but Empire Maker, he sort of stamps his offspring. You would expect his foals to look good in the flesh. And Messier was coming off a 2-month layoff last time. He was eligible to need that race. I thought he ran a really good second to his stablemate, and he can move forward off that race for Tim Yachteen.
White Barrio had an interesting winter and spring at Gulfstream, as you just see him there, easy to spot. And Modonical with a little bit of a more spirited gallop here than maybe we'll see from some of the others on the track today. But this, to me, is a very good sign, Scott. And I've liked this horse, even back to when he was running at Gulfstream, even way back to the Remsen, where he won a very game decision over Zandon. And he's going to be 3 times the price maybe of Zandon.
Drew the rail, as we talked about earlier. Just 2 4-furlong drills since the win in the Wood Memorial. Todd Pletcher talked about how taking it a little more easy with him than his other 2 colts. So maybe that's why getting a little more spirited, as you mentioned. But totally one of the horses to look for in terms of maybe being an overlay in this field. 10-1 on the line. You talked about the rail, and I think that's why you're attracted to him.
Yeah, and he worked, James, on the inside of a sprinter, and a nice sprinter last time, which I found interesting. And although it's just a 4-furlong workout time, I mean, you talk about galloping out 5, galloping out 6. I thought he did so with plenty of energy, and a 10-1 on the morning line. Like I said, looking forward to maybe making a play on Modonical. Quick thought on him as we're going to transition to some other horses here.
Yeah, I thought he looked great. I mean, he's never going to be the flashiest horse because he's a closer, but he looks happy out there in the track, and that was good work, Joe.
You know who else looks happy? Smile Happy. One of 2 for Ken McPeak. We had a chance to catch up with him the other day. Scott, that work didn't go as planned with Tis the Bomb. The other morning, they both finished up well. It was a little bit deceiving because Tis the Bomb was so far in front. But Smile Happy's been the model of consistency, and he's got a graded stakes victory already here at Churchill.
Yeah, not washed out today. Had been washed out in some of the earlier works. Just appears to be settling in quite nicely here. Kenny McPeak has talked about all along, 3rd start of the form cycle in the Kentucky Derby, and most certainly an advantage that he has a win over this racetrack and a win at 2 turns.
James, any interest in Smile Happy?
I could see him making a good middle move. I'm a little worried about the distance, and being in post 5, I'm a little worried he'll be too far back further than they want to be.
As you can see, his tail tied up there. You get that mud in the tail. It's not fun when these horses get a bath to get it out. So just making it easier on the workers back at the barn, if you're wondering why the tail is tied up there over a very sloppy track here this morning at Churchill Downs. And I think, James, the rains have subsided. I think we maybe got a little bit more rain in the forecast later on.
Yeah, we definitely got a little bit of a break right when we came on the air. It stopped raining. It's still trying to sprinkle a little bit here and there, but definitely sun's trying to poke its head through, and maybe a little bit of a break here.
Now, Messier's only been out a couple days here at Churchill, James, and he's with the pony right now. Again, his acclimation, he's just breaking off from the pony there into his gallop. The acclimation a little bit different than many of these horses who have been here for the better part of at least a week.
Yeah, definitely. And, there's two schools of thought. We've seen a lot of these California horses come in late. Doug O'Neill, actually, last year he brought Hot Rod Charlie in late. This year he brought Happy Jack in early. So it's up to these trainers. But both styles have worked well, getting here at the last minute, running well, or just having more time to acclimate to the surroundings and the surface.
There's White Barrio, model of consistency at Gulfstream, as we go back to Messier, who's going to, break off into his gallop here, Scott.
Yeah, 12. He's an Ontario bred. 12 Canadian breds have run in the Derby for this year, and the best effort came with Victory Gallop, one of my favorite horses of all time. He ran a big second to Real Quiet in 1998 for trainer Elliot Walden. And like I said, I think Messier is going to get a great trip just off the early pace. You would expect Johnny Velasquez, who certainly knows how to win a Kentucky Derby or two, to be aggressive, probably in a perfect scenario, sit just off of Summer's Tomorrow, maybe Classic Causeway from the outside, and then maybe make his move on the far turn.
That Always Dreaming trip that you applaud so much.
I'm hoping this is a fair racetrack, unlike that one.
James and I enjoyed the Always Dreaming trip. James, as far as Messier goes, we visited Tim Yachtine yesterday, and this horse, in talking to Tim, had to chase a Forbidden Kingdom, who only has one way to go. Kind of did the dirty work, set the table for Taba, who is making his two-turn debut. But things might be a little bit different here for Messier. He's going to show that speed, but again, Forbidden Kingdom not in the race, and that horse was absolutely gassed off the turn for home.
Yeah, and Forbidden Kingdom was favorite, so they were worried about him. They didn't want him to get out there and just steal it. So I don't think they're going to have that same strategy. Even if they don't even if John Velasquez, who's a good speed rider, doesn't make the lead, he'll just settle up close and let Messier just get into a cruising speed.
Nice steady gallop there for Messier. Wanted to do maybe a little bit more, but look at the ears, Scott.
Yeah, I think it was probably in the long run, his trip and his effort in the Santa Anita Derby was good, having to relax just off the pace, because that's probably what they're going to look to do here. A horse that, for the most part, was a speed horse, but the Forbidden Kingdom, much like Summer is Tomorrow, is a one-track speed horse that really, you could make the argument, could be a sprinter in the end.
Again, just got here a couple of days ago, Messier. This is our first real good look at him on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show, so giving you an opportunity to get a look at him in an extended time period yourself, as Messier continues a spirited gallop, a controlled gallop, a gallop where he's showing a good amount of energy. Again, temperature in the low 60s here at Churchill. The main track rated sloppy. But James, from where you're standing, the track looks like it's in pretty good shape. Again, not that messy, sloppy track. It looks like they sealed it, and a good surface to train over.
Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't gotten completely saturated yet, which will turn it muddy and sloppy. So you're right. You have a little bit of a period of time. It really just started raining earlier this morning for the most part. And so the horses all look like they're getting over pretty good.
There's 3 or 4 horses in here, Scott, that I can't really feel like I have a strong opinion either way on. And one of those is Simplification, who was third on the Florida Derby, but he ran against his best running style that day. His previous races where, he was left at the start and closed and showed a new dimension. And then the race following that, where he kind of just made that move on his own. If he runs back to that style, I like him even more. But again, a horse that I'm having a tough time getting a handle on, as we saw White Barrio, the Florida Derby winner, exiting the track.
Yeah, White Barrio beat him both times he faced him in the Florida Derby and the Holy Bull. The win in the Fountain of Youth was impressive by Simplification, but it was a short stretch, mile and a 16th against a field that has not shown to be quite as good, or nearly as good, in fact, as the Holy Bull and Florida Derby. It's hard for me to figure out a scenario, unless there's traffic issues of some sort, where he turns the tables on White Abarrio, and I am a little dubious of his chances of getting a mile and a quarter.
Post position number 13 for Antonio Sano, who ran Gunnevera, I believe finished 7th in the Kentucky Derby a few years ago, and then came back and hit the board in the Breeders' Cup Classic, I think, here at Churchill. Maybe that same year. I think it was maybe the following year.
I think it was the following year.
Following year.
It really kind of, kept the horse was very talented.
Yeah.
I mean, people that I respected liked that horse even to run big in the Derby that year, and Antonio Sano made the most of that one.
Not the biggest, most powerful horse, James, but not this time. Certainly has made a huge impression in just a couple of years as a stallion.
Yeah, absolutely. This is his first year for a Kentucky Derby starter, and he's got a pair of them. He's got Epicenter, Not This Time does, and Simplification, both graded stakes winners this spring. Simplification, to me, he's going to get a different trip than he had in the Florida Derby. I'm not too worried about that effort. He's going to be rating. He was chasing Classic Causeway. I look for that similar trip to the Fountain of Youth, and he could run better than he did last time.
Quick correction, Gunnevera did run 5th in the Breeders' Cup Classic the year of 2017, and then came back and ran 2nd in the next year's Breeders' Cup Classic to accelerate at odds of nearly 31-1.
And back to Not This Time, the number 1 second crop sire of 2021, the number 1 third crop sire of 2022, and 8th overall. And in the sire pool, Not This Time was 23-1. So you're getting Epicenter, you're getting Simplification. James, I love that sire future wager just for that reason. You got a couple of very good Kentucky Derby horses to root for, including one of the favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 4 sires in this year's field that have multiple runners. Gunrunner, of course, has Cyberknife and Tyba, Santa Anita, Arkansas Derby winners, but also Race Day and Pioneer of the Nile. They don't have perhaps top contenders like the other two, but 4 sires have multiple runners this year, Joe.
Crown Pride is the next horse we're going to take a look at. We've gotten to see him every day on the Kentucky Derby Morning Work Show since maybe one. He was back behind the gate doing his circles earlier, just getting warmed up like he has each and every day we've seen him, and there he is again and again. James just showing a very high energy level. All the training that this horse takes, I mean, you would think, and based on the pedigree, stamina is not going to be an issue with him.
I mean, he's just been unlike any horse I think we've ever seen here readying for the Derby. He just goes and goes and goes, and he's out there like exercising, and he just comes out here and stays out here, it seems like, for a long, long time. And I've talked to some people who have been around the connections, and they're real bullish. They think he's going to run great on Saturday. Really just a wild card. Could hit the board, could find it all too difficult for him.
How do you evaluate a horse like this, Scott? I mean, past performances are tough. You've been watching the Morning Work Show every day.
Extremely difficult. A horse that, I've heard Brandon Staubel, who'll be back with us tomorrow. He's praised, what he's seen from him. He's liked most.
Watched him every day.
Right. He likes, how he's progressed over the course. And he's, even commented on a video that you can find on Twitter with TwinSpires with Andrew Brown, who's done a great job for TwinSpires with his interviews, talking about how he's a little bit headstrong, but he kind of likes it because he kind of feels like he's coming into the race eager and ready to run, and he wants him not to be too far out the back, wants him to be excited to run. I've seen mixed signals on that. Racing with Bruno Giulio, who has his workout reports on Brisnet. They'll be available throughout the meet here, and of course for the Derby and Oaks, a little bit on the negative side, thinking he's a little over the top. So very difficult horse to handicap from my perspective, not being a visual handicapper in terms of works. Horse I'm going to include, in the 4th spot, maybe the 3rd for the superfecta defensively, but I'm not overly keen on him on top.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned the workout report. Not only for races like the Derby and Oaks, but for all those undercard races, it's a tremendous weapon to have if you're going to play the races. I think the Thorograph numbers are a fantastic tool. Not only it's got the raw numbers, but also being able to read the patterns, the workout report, the visuals that you have, your opinions, but being able to sprinkle in some supplementary information like that can definitely help make you successful.
I don't think you're able to be a winning horse player if you're not utilizing data. I used to be much, much more just watching replays and looking at the past performances, but now I've incorporated the Thorograph Optics EQ. I use their plot. They've got great notes. If you're not somebody that can use them, you speak to the workout reports. Of course, we talked yesterday, I believe it was, about, or maybe the day before, herd dynamics, something very unique to the Kentucky Derby. Kerry Thomas and Pete Denk, that'll be available on Brisnet. So many things to utilize. Now, I understand you don't want to overdo it. You want to stick with your gut in many ways, but there's so many great ways to get added information and add it to your toolbox, if you will.
I believe Johnny Ortiz ponying Barber Road up to the starting gate here for a little bit of schooling, and we see that, James, not only schooling at the starting gate to get the horses re-familiarized, but also the assistant starters familiar with the horses. Very important thing that's not talked about very often, James, is the 20-horse load. It takes some time. We've seen bad actors in the past. Some of these horses can stand in the starting gate for a long time, and it's important for the assistant starters to get to know the horses and their quirks.
That's true, Joe. If everybody goes in fine, they can get the whole field in like a minute, and it's just a piece of cake. But it doesn't always work out that way. These horses have to go through the post parade in the paddock, and they can be a little bit keyed up. And if they balk at all going in there, that takes extra time. So the first horses in the gate have to sit longer. That's part of the schooling. They put these horses in there. They just let them sit and sit and sit, and then they open the gate. And it's all training for Derby Day, just like schooling in the paddock is.
Ugiri drawn inside of Echo Zulu for the Kentucky Oaks on Friday. Scott, an expected pace factor, and there she is getting in a nice gallop.
Some horses have had to work to be good out of the gate, not Ugiri, who is broken on top, second or third in all 5 starts, including last time in the Fantasy when she popped the gate under Jockey Florentru, one of the better speed front-running riders in the game. Since adding blinkers, she's been involved early. James mentioned 2 back in the Honeybee when she sat just off the pace, but that was a pace that kind of fell apart a little. Secret Oath taking advantage. Ice Orchid, another off-the-pace runner. Again, this is the horse that's most likely to make things difficult on Echo Zulu, maybe Hidden Connection. So getting out of the gate is extremely important for this daughter of Shackelford.
We saw a good bit of Messier earlier this morning on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show. Now we see his stablemate, Taba. There are 2 different kinds of horses. Physically, James, Messier, a bigger, more stout horse. But when you look at Taba, you can understand why they paid $1.7 million for him.
You sure can. I mean, he's all athlete. He's got a way of moving to him. He's not the biggest horse, but real athletic. And, he costs, like, the next highest seller in the field costs $470,000. Taiba costs $1.7 million. And, it's turned out to be a great purchase. He's 2 for 2 so far. The one real question with him is he missed a workout a week before last, only had 1 work instead of 2 like Messier. And I think when you have a really lightly raced horse, you want to see everything go right, Joe, and he's had a hiccup along the way.
I was excited to fade this horse when I thought he might be 6-1, kind of in that third choice, the clear third choice off that Santa Anita Derby win. But if he's going to be 12-1 or higher, like the odds maker Mike Battaglia suggested with his morning line, it's a little tougher to fade him because he's.
Does that mean he's chilly on the board though? If he's like the California money's not coming in on him, I mean, to me it would be like if he's 7 or 8-1, I'd be more inclined because he's more. I don't know. It's not a good debate.
To me, it's not really a maiden race or a race where like the money he's taking has that much impact. To me, I think there's a lot of people that are my school of thought, yours I believe as well, not putting words in your mouth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of red flags here for a Kentucky Derby horse. I mean, people can compare him to Justify and call him the most talented horse in the field, but Justify came in with no hiccups. Speaking to what James said in his work regimen, he had the extra start under his belt. He had the extra start at 2 turns under his belt. There's so many things here that make me question whether he can get back to that Santa Anita Derby effort. Shipping out of town for the first time. There's a lot of question marks for Taba. But if his price is 12-15-1, I'm not using him. But I'm just not as excited to fade him. I thought he was one of the better fades in recent memory at 6 or 7-1.
$150,000 Fasek October yearling purchase, flipped for $1.7 million. The dam was versatile. She was a multiple stakes winning Ohio bred who won 17 races, James, and she had I think 45 starts. Normally, mares that have that many starts don't wind up being good brood mares, but this one appears to be an exception. And James, the last horse to win the Kentucky Derby off just 2 previous starts, I'm guessing you know when that was.
Yeah, Leonidas, way back in 1883, a different time, different era. So it's something that hasn't been done, but, these Derby traditions are changing. These horses are becoming more lightly raced. 10 of the horses have 5 or fewer starts in this year's Kentucky Derby field.
Another question for you, James. We'll see if you can make it 2 for 2. Who was the last 2-year-old sales purchase horse to win the Derby? Got any guesses?
Authentic?
Nope.
No, he was a yearling. Okay.
I don't have any guess.
Do you have it, Joe?
2016, it was Nyquist, guys. $400,000 Fasek Tipton purchase in March. So Nyquist, the last 2-year-old in training purchase to win the Derby. Tis the Bomb Cocktail Moments. The Colt Tis the Bomb on the inside, the Philly Cocktail Moments on the outside. Scott, both trained by Kenny McPeak, and this was just a little bit earlier this morning.
Cocktail Moments, a horse I've heard some people have some interest in terms of maybe underneath or as a long shot option. Does have that eye-popping win from well off the pace on debut on the Stars of Tomorrow 2 card. My concern is she hasn't gotten anywhere near back to that in terms of numbers. She did finish second to Nest, a well-beaten second in the Ashland. I thought that was a race shape-induced second. Same can be said for her third in the Devona Dale. So she's a pass for me.
No surprise to see those two
Crown
going under.
Pride, in the chute. We saw him with another strong gallop earlier this morning, and there he is doing his circles like he's been doing every day we've seen him here on the work show. Nice and relaxed. I mean, James and Brandon's talked about this, and so is Rosie Napravnik, who has a background not only with thoroughbred racehorses as a former rider, but in dressage and a proponent of thoroughbred aftercare.
Yeah, I mean,
this horse is just relaxed. I mean, it's just amazing to see the way this horse takes his cues from the rider.
Yeah, I mean, and Rosie did a great job. She's a long-time veteran of the backside. Never seen a horse that comes out and does dressage for a good period of time and then goes out and works like a thoroughbred. Figure eights, circles, walking backwards, all kinds of weird stuff Crown Pride's doing.
TwinSpires is the place to bet the races, not only this week, but each and every day, and there's a lot of reasons why, including the expert picks. You see the gentleman on your screen right there. He's working hard for you. He's got selections for today, Champions Day at Churchill, racing all week here at Churchill through Kentucky Derby Day. Scott, and the entire meet, your expert picks will be on TwinSpires. Nice little 45-second, minute and 15-second videos giving your opinions on the race, quick and easy to use.
Yeah, I think they're best used if you're a somewhat serious handicapper, maybe to separate some horses that you might be a little bit confused on, or maybe to make sure you're not missing a long shot that I like. But Joe, I mean, if you're not involved yet on TwinSpires, not really sure what you're doing, but pretty good one here, $25 risk-free bet, right?
Yep, get 25, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby, TwinSpires. All right, Scott, designated training period is basically over. We'll get your final thoughts on the day in just a moment, but I'm excited. We've been talking to James the last couple of days about who we might pick in the Oaks, who we might pick in the Derby. The first one to go public with his selections, Rosie, Brandon, Scott, myself in the coming days. James?
Yeah, I've had a great 2 days. Really enjoyed it, guys. It's my last day on the work show. I'll start with the Oaks. My top 5 is up there. I'll just go over the top 3 real quick. I like Kathleen O. I like her from off the pace. I'm going to use Ness in second. She's an A play for me. Cocktail Moments is my long shot bomber. Runs late for a minor share. And then in the Derby, I'll turn into my top 5 in the Kentucky Derby. I'm going with the long shot. I thought hasn't been a lot of separation most of this year between the 3-year-olds. I love Zozos as runner-up in the Louisiana Derby. If he had drawn inside any speed, I might have been concerned because of his inexperience. But he's got great cruising speed. He's going to love the distance. I'm going to look for him to make a big move on the far turn. turn. I got Zandon second, Epicenter third, Cyberknife and Charge It are two that have impressed me in their workouts. So those are my top 5 for the Kentucky Derby, guys, and I wish everybody watching the best of luck this weekend.
All right, thanks, James. We'll be seeing James on the simulcast show Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And Zozos at 20-1. Our selections in the next couple of days. Scott, your final thought for today?
Well, he's going to get more than 20-1 is my first thought. That's a bold pick by James. Much respect for that. It's good to see Messier. Good to see White Abario for the first time out there. Taba, we saw a little bit of yesterday. Got to see a little bit more. Looking forward to kind of seeing how they settle in a little bit. White Abario and Messier horses that I think could make a serious impact.
Brandon Staubel, Rosie Napravnik will rejoin the show tomorrow, and they'll be on Thursday as well. Oh, no Rosie tomorrow.
Thursday.
Rosie's back Thursday. Brandon tomorrow. I apologize for that, but we will get Rosie back on Thursday for her final thoughts and her selections as we continue with the Kentucky Derby morning workout show for 3 more days here at Churchill Downs. It is Champions Day. Live racing begins at 12:45 Eastern. Hope you can join us. We'll be back tomorrow on this show at 7 a.m. Take care, everybody.